and they don't really like me. Cause I can fuck your bitch and fuck your mom and auntie.
Kyle, also known as Super Duper Kyle, is a rapper who went viral for his song I Spy featuring Lil Yachty, which racked up nearly 1 billion streams on Spotify alone and has gone 8 times platinum. Following that, he released a couple of other songs that garnered hundreds of millions of streams, and it seemed like Kyle was super successful. But not too long after his massive success, Kyle seemingly disappeared. People stopped talking about him and his music, and his massive buzz seemed to have vanished. But to understand how Kyle became popular so quickly and then lost that hype even faster, we gotta go back to the beginning. Kyle was born in LA and started making music when he was young, dropping a bunch of mixtapes from 2009 to 2012 under the names Kid Cash and KID, or Kid, or whatever he used to call himself. He used to make your more run-of-the-mill average style of rap, and he said himself it didn't really fit his vibe.
So all I used to rap about was just guns, selling drugs and shit, and then I noticed like I was always writing fire-ass bars, but yet nobody liked any of my songs. And like my friends and shit were hella straight up with me, so I would play them some shit that I worked hella long on, and then I knew was fire, and you'd be like, this shit is trash. And I was always wondering, like, damn, why?
Yeah, I think Kyle just always caught one. I think this nigga was always kind of
They can't relate to it because they haven't lived that shit, and they can't relate to it because it doesn't even sound real coming out of my mouth.
Right. Eventually, he changed his name to Super Duper Kyle, saying the super duper part is because I'm also aware that I can do anything. There is no impossibility. I'm a superhero and I can save my own day as well as others with the power I have from this music and the power of being kind to people. I'm mentioning this for a reason, so keep that in mind. But Kyle shifted his style from your everyday drugs and guns raps to talking about things he actually did in his life, along with shooting to be more positive in his music.
Because I had like Kid Cudi and, you know what I'm saying, and Wiz Khalifa and Drake and people like that to show me that you don't really have to be super hard in order to be a rapper. But I feel like Tyler and Odd Future was one of the first things that showed me like really having a personality and like putting all of your weird shit into your music was okay too. You know what I mean? It was with Tyler that did that.
So this was Kyle's mission with his music, to be more positive, to put his personality into his music, and to be very genuine. Also, at some point along the way, he just started going by Kyle. In 2013, he independently released his debut mixtape, Beautiful Loser, which saw some decent success and today has multiple songs with tens of millions of streams. Kyle was getting some buzz, made some connections with artists, featured in a G-Eazy music video, and he was coming up. In 2015, he followed up with another mixtape called Smile, which saw way more success. This album peaked at 76 on the Billboard 200, had a feature from Chance the Rapper, and has the song Don't Wanna Fall in Love, which has hundreds of millions of streams. Kyle was finally cracking into the mainstream. And he was smart too, because despite having all of this success, he decided to stay independent, at least for now. It was shortly after this run that I found out about his music, and I was like 14 at the time, and I really liked his songs. When I was 14, songs like King Wavy with G-Eazy were like the coolest thing to me. Also, I gotta shout out Doubt It. That was my favorite song for probably a year. I thought it was so cold. And that single did pretty well too, garnering like tens of millions of streams. But I'm saying this to point out the type of music that he made, which I'll bring up later. Regardless, things were about to take off even more for Kyle. In December of 2016, he released his hit single I Spy, which went super viral. The song featured Lil Yachty, and I'd honestly be surprised if you guys haven't heard this song. It has nearly 1 billion streams on Spotify, peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100.
That shit was a banger, I'm not gonna lie.
Times platinum. It even got a remix from Kodak Black, which I don't think I've
that
ever
shit was a
heard,
banger,
and
I'm not
I don't
gonna
know
lie.
if I ever want to. That's not shade at Kodak, by the way. I can't imagine him on that song, and I don't think it would be good. The song I Spy really fit the
I didn't
vibe
like
he was going
Kodak on that
for
song.
with the pop rap,
I didn't like the
positive,
remix.
realistic vibe that he was talking about. I mean, the chorus is literally, I spy with my little eye a girly I can get because she doesn't get too many likes. A curly-headed cutie I can turn into my wife. Very innocent and lovely chorus right there. Regardless, when that song blew up, he was able to sign a record deal with Atlantic Records in February of 2017. Later, he was featured on the XXL 2017 freshman class cover alongside X, Ugly God,
One of the
Made in
worst
Tokyo,
fucking covers
Nene,
ever.
Playboy Cardi, A Boogie, and more. Kyle was blown
Especially
up, and he
following
had
up from the
multiple songs
last
that started
year,
coming
like,
out
nah.
featuring people like Made in
That
Tokyo,
was
Ty
mid.
Dolla $ign, Miguel, and others. In 2018, he released a single Playing With Me with Kehlani, and that song did insanely well. It didn't do as well as his hit song I Spy, but it did garner a few 100 million streams on Spotify, and eventually it went platinum. This song was one of the singles for his debut studio album Light of Mine, which had features from artists such as 2 Chainz, Khaled, and more. This album also eventually went platinum. Around this time, Billboard described Kyle as one of hip-hop's handful of more happy-go-lucky rappers, and that was a great description of his overall vibe. Kyle was on top of the world, And he even got to be the main character in a movie called The After Party, although it did have terrible reviews, so maybe that hurt his on top of the world feeling a little bit. And after 2018, things seemed to slow down a little bit for Kyle. He released the deluxe To Light of Mine, which didn't do super great in 2019. Then in 2020, he released his next album, See You When I'm Famous, with features from artists like Rich the Kid, Rico Nasty, Trippie Redd, Ian Dior, Bryson Tiller, Tyga, and plenty more. And even with all of those features, it didn't do nearly as well as his previous projects. It did place at 124 on the Billboard 200, and I'm not saying it did bad, but his numbers definitely started declining. And after this album that came out during the COVID lockdown, Kyle seemed to start falling out of the public eye. In a Billboard article, they seemed to attribute the lack of success on his previous album to the COVID lockdown, and Kyle did too. He said, "I was being so meticulous with trying to make that album perfect, and in my eyes, that is still the best thing I've ever done. But that shit really hurt me, because it totally did not react in the way that I was expecting it to." Billboard also said, like many artists with new projects that year, he felt it didn't reach its potential due to it being released during the pandemic.
Because in the middle of that pandemic, it was like, damn, life really sucked. At least from, I know for everybody, but like from my own personal experience, like I was really, really hating life. I just dropped See You When I'm Famous. It's like in the middle of the pandemic. I can't go tour. I can't go do shit for it.
Right.
Like many other artists who weren't super gigantic with huge fan bases, he really suffered from the pandemic because he wasn't able to tour or promote his album like he normally would have been if there wasn't a pandemic. And like I said, the album hit 124 on the Billboard 200, but it was only up there for a week. He released a few singles throughout 2020 and 2021 and was getting millions of streams per song, but they weren't going super crazy. Kyle said himself he wasn't feeling like himself with the music. He said, "I have not felt like myself."
Does it sound like with Kyle music, you gotta be outside for
every direction, and I had zero control of what means the most to me, my art. It is important to me that I give you all the best of me. On top of that, one of the main reasons he was seemingly disappearing
and being locked in the house,
also having label
listening
issues.
to Kyle,
He said
just
in his
don't even
Billboard
hit the
interview,
same.
"I think I lost control over my art due to the
So I can see why that
expectation
shit would
and the pressure
affect
that
him.
surrounded my specific deal. When I Spy happened, I had this massive record, and there was this expectation surrounding the label that, oh, this is the kind of records that he's going to make, and he's going to do it like a factory again and again and again. And you get in a cycle of attempting that, and I realized my art is no longer being dictated by what I just think is cool."
I'm chasing some sort of smash.
Yeah.
And especially for me, the smash record they want me to chase is like a diamond song. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
The label issues coupled with the pandemic really seemed to hinder the momentum he had from like the past 5 years.
No like shade to them at all, because my time working with Atlantic was awesome. But I just realized, I'm like, oh, financially it makes way more sense for me to just do this thing myself, because that's all they're asking me to do anyways. Just be you, and hopefully something pops off. But if it doesn't pop off, we're gonna
I was
be like,
thinking more like parties, summer
disappointed.
parties,
You know what I'm
pool
saying?
parties.
So Kyle went independent in 2021 and got back to the music grind.
Festivals
His first
type
order of
vibes.
business was doing something that
That's
I
what
don't
Kyle
think
music
did his career any
I mean,
favors. And that's when he released his next album, It's Not So Bad, as an NFT. He tweeted, "It's not so bad, my 5th project, January 28th. Instead of splitting the royalties with the label, I'll be selling this project as an NFT to give an opportunity for my fans to own this project with me. We're in this together forever and ever." When asked what his fans thought about it, he said, "I think a lot of my fans don't even necessarily know
Sold
what it
an
is or
album
how to
as an
grasp it, but I think
NFT.
there's a little bit of a learning curve, and it's going to be a process for people to really understand it. But I think it's good that it just exists." Although I'm not sure how true that is, because if you look at some of the responses to him promoting it, people were saying things like, "Hell no, f NFTs." Ooh, super disappointed to see this, man. Kyle, why? Now, I'm not an NFT guy, but I think what this means when you turn an album into an NFT.
Yeah,
when
this
you
is
buy the
terrible.
NFT,
This is terrible,
supposedly when
dog.
someone streams the album, you're going to get a share of the revenue or some of the
Turning your
royalties.
album
However,
into
I have no
NFT,
idea if
bro?
anyone ever got paid. All I can find are some comments of people asking when they got their shares distributed, or asking when they will get any news from the company Opulus that
That's
he
a
partnered with.
quick
This
way to
company also
speed
has a
run
pretty
and kill
bad
your
rating
career.
on isthiscoinascam.com, so something shady may have gone down. Although, like I said, I don't really know anything about the NFT world, so I could be wrong, and I also could find like no information on this at all, so I'm not going to say it was a scam, but it was definitely a little fishy. And what I can say for sure is that it was not a good look, and it didn't seem like many fans
That
were
is
into
a
this
super
idea.
not good
And on
look
top of all
at
that,
all.
the album in general just had really poor
Especially
reviews.
like around the time when niggas was getting in trouble for like NFT scamming and shit, bro. That's super not a good look. Super duper not a good
But that
look.
wasn't it for Kyle. Kyle had an issue, and it was that him and his music were kind of corny. Or at least that's what people were saying. For example, when discussing his album See You When I'm Famous, the top comment on the Reddit post is, "I'm just surprised you made it this far." And someone responded, "Facts. also surprised his music isn't total garbage. Now, I used to really like Kyle when I was younger, and while doing the research for this video and watching interviews, he does seem like a super great guy, so this is no shade to Kyle. I respect the positive vibe he tries to push, and I do still like a few of his tracks, but his music seems very appropriate to the time that it came out in. Like, a lot of us are probably a little too old to be singing I Spy in 2024, you know what I'm saying? Now that I think about it, some of his bars from that era just weren't the greatest. Like, Undoubted when he said, "Fire spitting kid who you kid and I would flame your ass. Call your baby champion, do you know who you're aiming at?" That verse went crazy when I was 15, don't get me wrong, but not so much anymore. Sunny Baby made a great video on TikTok explaining Kyle's strange spot in the hip-hop/pop rap space, which really sums up what I'm trying to say here.
So I was in Kyle's live yesterday, and a lot of people kept saying that he fell off. And for me personally, I would just have to disagree because I don't really think he was ever really on. Yes, I know Kyle's had.
Yeah, I feel like he just caught
He
one,
is a platinum
unfortunately.
recording artist, and he's been in the game for a pretty long time now. If you guys remember, a few years back, him and Yachty had that I Spy record.
I think he
which
wasn't
just
like no
a massive
genre
hit. Like I
bending
said, he's been in the game for
generational
a
fucking
while now,
talent.
and I don't really think I've
I
ever really met
just think
anybody
he
that's
caught one.
been part of his fan base. Like, it seems like he's there, but no one really seems to take notice until he just comes out with a really big, massive commercial hit. When speaking to people about Kyle, they kind of get like this token-like vibe, and it kind of just seems that he's very commercially successful, but not culturally. I don't know, I'm not a massive fan of his music, but he's obviously a fantastic artist. I just feel throughout the duration of his career, something's missing. But you tell me, what do you think of Kyle?
The comments on this video also help sum up how people feel about him. Kyle represents this weird space in pop rap where a lot of people consider him corny, when really he's just more pop than rap. And another person called him Walmart Chance the Rapper. If you guys aren't locked in on the whole hip-hop space, a lot of people think Chance the Rapper is also pretty corny. So just not a great look. And if we think back to earlier when I was talking about having super duper in his name and talking about being a superhero with the positivity in his music, I think that's a cool thing. There's nothing wrong with saying that, but like in rap, a lot of fans are not gonna f with that. And just the fact that he
Yeah, that
was so
shit does.
positive, like I
It
mentioned
does come
earlier,
off as corny.
wasn't necessarily the most helpful look. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being positive, but a lot of people, especially nowadays, think that positivity can be a little corny, especially in the rap space. Believe it or not, I think Adam22 summed it up pretty well in his interview with Kyle.
On a pop culture level, it seems like the positive message a lot of times needs to sort of be like spoon fed to people, along with like, well, look at all this bullshit that I've come out of. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, I was a fucking crazy ass alcoholic for 10 years and now look at me. And that people
Yeah.
are very much able to like appreciate that. But somehow, like, when you are coming into it and you're just positive, it's like it can be harder to get people to sort of like bite into that.
Well, because they don't understand. They
Yeah.
don't understand. And
That everybody has their struggles, even if it's not a really, really in your face struggle.
yeah,
like being
even
a
if
fucking
you're
alcoholic.
keeping it together.
On top of that, he had some TikTok snippets recently that sort of went viral for being not that great.
So I decided to make a Philly club song.
Dog. My God, bro, I remember this.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck off the air.
Listen, look. Why? I feel so bad, bro. Like, bro is not made to come back. Like, this is fucking trash, Kyle, for real. Kyle, you are way too old to be doing this. Haven't seen bro since Broccoli. Kyle is Lil Dicky for the black community. I hope that he light skinned. I just heard her say nigga. Yo. I feel so bad because it's like, I feel like it's not that bad.
You guys know how Instagram Reels comments
That shit was
are, and
bad.
people were not feeling these snippets.
Nigga,
the songs he
that was supposed to be a Philly clubs. That shit was bad.
was previewing had the same type of lyricism as his 2016 tracks, which
He need to
isn't
stay
great when a
far
lot of
away
your
from
fans
that
have
shit.
grown up and aren't trying to hear that anymore. He also said his label didn't have the best marketing strategies, but it seems like after going independent, he hasn't been able to come up with something better.
My marketing advice from people I was working with was to do this.
It's
You
like
know what I'm saying? And
it's like, oh wow, you're getting paid for this?
and they're
yeah,
getting
no
pa-
shit.
They're
yeah.
getting paid a lot for that.
Right.
You know?
So after COVID hurting the launch of one of his albums, pressures from his label, then releasing an album as an NFT and
Oh,
going
yeah,
independent,
he
Kyle's
was-
career has definitely suffered a couple
Yeah,
of blows.
yeah, he's. Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. I'm not gonna lie.
And this can be seen in the numbers on his latest album Smile Again, where most of the songs didn't crack 1 million plays on Spotify. And you know how you can Google most mainstream artist albums and see the first week's sales? I couldn't really find him for this one. And honestly, I actually like this album. I mean, I like WAP Dad 4000 a lot, and you can't go wrong with the Tizo touchdown feature. Along with that, I think the production was pretty dope too. But the project did not do too well commercially. However, while many fans think Kyle may have fallen off, it seems like he's had a different approach to the music industry as of late. If you guys have ever heard of the 1,000 True Fans ideology, that seems to be what he's practicing. He's focusing more on his core fan base by live streaming on Twitch.
That's all
streaming
that.
on
That's all
Patreon,
that
and
matters,
doing other
really.
things like
That's
this.
all that matters.
And so I think the name of the game
That's all that
now
matters.
is really focusing on your micro fan base, right? Your fan base
super
is this.
serving them, yeah.
Your fan base is this. My
Right.
fan base is this. Like, I'm a very famous person. Like,
Yeah.
when I walk,
Yeah, your monthly listeners are fucking huge on Spotify.
when I walk down the street, like, people are going to recognize me, type shit. And that's
Visually,
here.
you're also very unique. People are like, "Oh, it's the guy with the gray hair," and you know, I saw him on Netflix.
Yo,
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about, yo.
Yeah.
So it's here, and then, but I can't focus on this in today's
That's
world,
why. That's why
right?
underground
I have to
rappers still
focus
be
on
going
this.
for years.
There's
'cause they
smaller
focus
amount
on
of
the
people that
core
are
fan
really
base.
into everything I do. I need
Engaged.
to engage. I need to super serve them.
They're buying merch. They're
Buying
coming to
everything.
the shows.
They're keeping things afloat. I need to super serve them, and as I'm super serving them, something will raise its hand, and then appeal to all these people.
That's how you do it.
And that's kind of.
And this is really smart because as an independent artist, this is where the money is at. On top of
Exactly.
that, being independent for his early career has to have made him so much money. I'm sure Kyle's set for life. Kyle hasn't necessarily disappeared, but he's definitely taken a backseat to mainstream hip hop.
Yeah, mainstream.
His core audience.
Mainstream for him is over, but it seemed like he's still doing pretty cool with music though. Yeah, W
and
call,
making the
W video.
Well, when I first came out, a lot of people, because I really started on MySpace very